did I grow my arms from 17 inches up to 18 inches? A great question by EW-ZD1TH. Specifically, what exactly have you done from 17 to 18 inches? And are this compared same body fat percentage? Yes, the body fat percentage is similar, as you can see in the video here over this time. It goes on to say, how exactly would you train? Every set to failure, question mark. How much sets per body part per week? Which frequency? Which rep range? I really have bad genetics and I train almost every set to failure. My last reps are 3 to 5 seconds, especially on the last set of an exercise. All right, let's get into it. So first of all, we pull out my arm gains tracker. And you can see here that I hit 17 inches in November of 2021, and then I didn't hit 18 inches until September of 2023. So it almost took 2 freaking years to carve out that last inch. And generally speaking, it took some time to reflect and analyze what I did differently. So the first thing is that I started increasing my frequency. Prior to this, I pretty much exclusively would train my arms and then rest 3 to 4 days to let them fully recover. So wait until there's absolutely no soreness and I feel fully recovered. In this time period where I went from 17 to 18 inches, one of the main changes is that I started training more often. So I went down to resting 1 to 2 days in between sessions. I don't recommend that you do this right away. If you've been training for a while, I think it can be effective. And I did it progressively. So initially I'm resting 4 days. I trim that down to 3, and I do that for a month, and I see how my body responds. Pay attention to your recovery. It's also going to be based on a multitude of other factors: the intensity, the volume, the demand on your body, the stimulus that you're putting onto it. You need to be perceptive and pay attention to the signs that it's telling you and see if you're actually recovering and if you appear to be gaining muscle. And when I started trimming down the rest days, it appeared that my body was responding positively, and it seemed that I would gain more muscle. So then the next month I'd go down to just 2 days in between, and then the next month after that I went down to 1 day, and then eventually I did do a period of time where I trained arms every day, which I also did recently. You can see on my channel that I took another swing at it. I found for me the 1 to 2 days in between arms at this point in my training journey, being more advanced, where I think the rules change a little bit because your body has adapted to a lot of the more, let's say, generally agreed upon training protocols. And then at that point, I think you can venture outside some of the rules and experiment with something like higher training frequency. So if you're really looking to prioritize your arm growth and you've been training for a while, I think slowly reducing those rest days and seeing how your body responds can be a way to spark more growth. It did work for me. The second point was to increase the volume. So prior to this, getting up to 17 inches, most of my training was pretty low volume. Occasionally I do higher volume workouts, but for the most part, I was doing 3 to 5 sets. And then to go from 17 to 18, I bumped that up to the range of 5 to 15 sets. That's a pretty broad range, but my workouts would be anywhere in that kind of range, with most of them being like, let's say 8 to 10 working sets, and then resting 1 to 2 days and then training again and pushing everything to failure or close, which is consistent for pretty much all of my training journey. I've experimented here and there with not training to failure, and I typically found it to not be as effective. That's been my experience. So increasing frequency, increasing volume, and then I started supersetting. So going up to 17 inches, I would do straight sets, triceps first and then biceps after. And at the beginning of 2022, I started supersetting, and this was a game changer, because it allows you to take advantage of a longer rest time, which is kind of the second point. These two things sort of work in unison. So if you're going to hit your triceps, and then you're going to take a little rest, and then you're going to hit your biceps, and then you're going to take a little rest, and that would be one round of the superset. What it allows you to do is have a longer rest time for each individual muscle. Triceps, rest 2 minutes. Biceps, rest 2 minutes. That's 4 minutes of rest time, plus the time it took me to hit the biceps set, 30 seconds to a minute. So the tricep muscle individually is getting 5 minutes of rest, and same thing for the biceps. Why does this matter? Over many years of experimentation, I've found for the most part longer rest times to produce better muscle gain. And I think part of the reason is because it allows you to do more output. So for example, if I do my first set of triceps, dumbbell behind the head, and let's say, right now I got the 100-pound dumbbell for 14 reps or whatever it is, depending on the tempo, let's just say that's what it is, and then I rest 2 minutes, and then I hit my biceps, and then I rest 2 minutes. I come back in the second set, I'm maybe getting 13 reps. And the third set, I'm getting maybe 13 again, and then the fourth set, I'm getting 12. So the total output is really high. The amount of work done, the amount of weight moved for the reps, for times the total amount of sets, or the total amount of reps done in the whole workout times the weight. Whereas if I did straight sets and I just rested 2 minutes, the fatigue from the previous set carries over into the next set, and then you don't end up moving as much weight for as many reps. And you might think, well, that's could be better because I'm slamming the muscle, it's higher intensity. And I tried it, I agree. The fatigue is more intense, maybe the pump is a little higher, maybe. And you may perceive that as being better. Having experimented with both after several years, particularly once I got to like the more advanced stage for me of 17 inches and then to elevate to 18, I found using that extended rest time in a superset structure was hands down more effective for producing muscle growth. That being said, a shorter rest time at the end of the workout I think can be effective, but I still prefer to do supersets. So instead of resting 2, 3, 4 minutes, I'll do my triceps, I'll rest 30 seconds, I'll do my biceps, I'll rest 30 seconds, repeat. The thing is, the triceps and the biceps are still getting a minute and a half of rest. So you're still able to allow the muscle to recover some, so you can attack that next set again. And like 2 weeks ago, I mixed in some straight sets just because I'm really trying to experiment and do something different every session. I'm like, well, I always superset. Although I feel it's been better, and I hated it. I was like, yuck, I'm never doing this again. I did 3 straight sets of triceps, and exactly that. I would hit the set, and then I'd rest like 2 minutes. So I don't really want to stand there doing nothing for like 5-6 minutes. And then the next set was like garbage. I didn't have enough recovery to like do another good set. And so that extended rest window, personally, I've found to be immensely impactful. And you could do that with straight sets, but then you're just going to be sitting around doing nothing forever. You could do your first set of triceps, you could rest 5 to 6 minutes sitting there doing nothing. You could do the next set of triceps, rest 5 to 6 minutes, and you could do your whole tricep workout, 8 sets doing that, and then switch to biceps. But the problem is you're going to be in the gym forever, and the pump overall is less because you're just kind of hitting one muscle at a time. Not that that's the end-all be-all, but it is kind of sick to have like blood in the bis and the tris at the same time as you're hopping back and forth. To me, it's a win-win. I guess the one downside that people could say is that you're putting fatigue on your body as a whole. So if I do my triceps and then take a 2-minute rest and then hit biceps and then take a 2-minute rest, I've put more fatigue on my body by doing the opposing muscle group, the biceps. So the next time I get back to the triceps, I'm going to be more fatigued than if I just did straight sets of triceps and rested 5 minutes. So that would be the one downside that I think you could maybe argue. But I think overall, the benefits of the superset massively outweigh the drawbacks in my opinion. So those are the main concrete changes that I made to my training that allowed me to go from 17 to 18 inches. And I would say the takeaway point or the theme in all of this is as you get more advanced, doing more, putting more in, mostly leads to more results. Caveat with that being that you got to be smart about it and gradually up the ante. So gradually train more often, gradually add more sets, gradually try to have a higher total output in each workout. The total amount of work that you do, try to scale that up over time. And I think where a lot of people run into problems is that, and I actually saw another question of this in one of the previous comments, is that once the weight and reps stop going up, how can you continue to see progress? And I would say these are some of the strategies. Because once I hit that like upper 16, 17 inch mark for my arms, the weight and the reps and the traditional, ideology of training was capped out, and I wasn't going to see any continual progress. And I didn't. And you can see in the log here that I was stuck at 17 inches for like up to a year, maybe something like that. And so, adding some of these things in, not being afraid to break some of the rules and train more often than people say you should, do more volume than people say you should, rest a little bit longer in between sets. All of that helped me to lead to more growth. And I think the last bit that you should consider is like experimentation is important. And you could follow these recommendations that I'm giving you, and I think you'll see good benefit from them. But I also think experimenting by doing different stuff, like for example, something I've been doing more recently is faster reps in a high rep range. And it's been producing a lot more soreness than I've gotten in like years. I know soreness is just one measure, and it doesn't necessarily mean more muscle growth exactly. But overall, generally, usually more muscle soreness is better in terms of muscle gain, roughly speaking. And that's something that I wouldn't have thought would work, right? Fast, explosive tempo, and really high reps with short rest time, supersetting back and forth, insane pump, and more muscle soreness. Got to let it play out a little bit more to see where it goes, but these things concretely led to an additional inch in my arms. So try them out, and don't be afraid to experiment with additional techniques and tactics. As long as you show up to all your workouts, train extremely hard, and then find ways to progress your training. You need all three of those. If one of those things is missing, you're not going to be able to see the progress that you want. If you don't push all your sets really hard, then you're just not going to stimulate growth. If you don't show up to all your workouts and you fall off your training program and you come back on, you're not going to be able to sustain, to compound that progress and continue to elevate. And then if you don't find a way to challenge yourself and make your workouts harder and harder, you're also going to stagnate. Even if you show up to all the sessions and train really hard, you have to find a way to do some different things, to scale up the frequency, to scale up the volume, and start experimenting with different tempos, different rest times, and just keep doing different stuff. And really, if you're like, oh, what does that mean? I would just say, even in your head, just be like, how can I make my workout harder? That's the only question you ask yourself. And then just think of one thing you could do. I'll do a couple extra sets. I'll change the tempo. I'll change the rest time. I'll up the weight a little bit. Whatever. I'll train more often. Whatever it is. Whatever you can think of. There's not necessarily, you're not going to break, it's not going to be, you're not going to do any wrong. As long as you have the foundation of the consistency and the intensity, experimenting by changing some things, trying with the idea of trying to make your workouts harder, I think is only going to benefit you. So I hope that helps you. Go there and make some more freaking gains. If you want the specific arm routines that I'm doing right now on my only arms and on my website, I'm uploading all of my current workouts where I detail exactly the routine. So if you're interested in that, you can check.